Thanks for joining me again. This is Lokazi casting for you MLG Columbus Upper Bracket Round 2 from replays. You can check out all the games from round, I believe I casted from 7 on in the lower bracket, which is about 30 games total. We're coming up on the championship games. This is the semifinals for the upper bracket between MMA and MLOSira. MLOSira just took game 1 from MMA using Ling pressure on Tal'Darim Altar to punish the relatively open layout of MMA's base, meanwhile expanding behind it and ending up getting up 3 times as many drones as there were SCVs and just constantly streaming in Zerglings for the win. Now, MMA versus MLOSira here, if MLOSira wins, he goes in a guaranteed spot into the championship game. If MMA wins, it goes to a game 3. And whoever loses this series will go into the lower bracket, round 10. Whoever loses there will be placed 3rd. Whoever wins will come back up to the upper bracket and will face whoever wins from this series. So if that's not confusing enough for you, I'm going to go into more simpler things, I guess I should say. The command center in the bottom left-hand corner here is MMA in the blue, and in the bottom right-hand corner, the hatchery spawning in for IMLosira as the red Zerg. And MMA seems to want to build a tighter wall this time. He is starting it up with a supply depot barracks at the top of the ramp. MLG Shakira's Plateau, of course, has these weird little doodad supply depots at the bottom of all the first ramps. But more than any other one of the maps, that really matters the least because the natural is so easy to take. We got some drone harassment going down on the SCV that was building this barracks. And now this SCV is going to go ahead and go across and scout. It is close by air, and MLOSira sees the refinery and backs up immediately because he knows where the location is, and he doesn't want to give away where his is. He's going to force MMA to scout for a little bit longer. But MMA was already choosing to scout in the right direction anyway, so not that big of a deal. MLOSira has his expansion down. He has his extractor up. Spawning pool is about 1/3 the way, cruising along, morphing in over there. Factory going down for MMA again. Looks like he might be going with the build that he tried last time, but didn't end up getting to execute. He popped out a few Hellions that kind of tickled MLOSira's base, and then were met with a massive amount of Zerglings who then countered into MMA's main. So we'll have to see how this strategy works out here on this map, which is a little bit easier to wall off, and you can wall off in 2 locations and expand fairly easily behind it, as opposed to a little bit more difficult on Tal'Darim Altar. We have MMA just harvesting that gas away, and there's the expansion command center. I was wondering when that was going to go down. And MLOSira just scouting between the natural and the main base. I'm sorry, MMA is scouting between the natural and the main base of MLOSira. There we go. There are no queens out, actually. A little bit, well, pretty on time. I think it's only, I don't know how it's late. I guess it's because the spawning pool was so late. It's like a 17 spawning pool, 16 spawning pool. And we have the queens popping out now. They will spit their larvae on the hatcheries. And MLOSira is free to drone up right now. And it looks like he knows it. He knows there's tech coming because he's only getting shot by 1 Marine at the top of the ramp, which means probably tech and expansion. Hellion out on the field, and it is getting blue flame this time. So MMA is deciding that, you know, last time I liked those Hellions, and they could have killed all of those Zerglings had they had blue fire instead of red fire. Which, of course, very, very long ago, Zelda taught us that blue fire is better than red fire. If not science, as red fire burns hotter. But, you know, Zelda taught me that lesson when I was like 8, so I'm going to go ahead and say it was Zelda, not science. Baneling Nest going down for MLOSira here. It looks like he's going to try and do some severe damage and bust actually this expansion when it comes up before a good wall gets going. And this is taking advantage of the fact that he's been ahead economically, and he's going to try and punish MMA when he tries to move out. I don't think it's going to work out though, as there's going to be, at least, quite a few blue flame Hellions out on the field. 2 more barracks going down, so it's going to be 3 racks factory out of MMA here. And it looks like he's going to roll out with those 3 Hellions and regain some map control, maybe roast some Zerglings. You know, maybe go off some sick jumps. I don't know. I don't know what Hellions do in their free time. Chill at Zelnaga watchtowers, I guess. And the second and third racks are finishing up. MMA's expansion has landed. And MMA does see the Banelings, so he's going to know that he has to watch out for that threat. So he might wall up a little bit better at his natural. And Zergling Surround coming in here, pinning in all these Hellions, and they actually get hit by a Baneling and then taken out by the remainder of the Zerglings. Very well played there by IMLosira. He actually just, baited those in there and then swiftly trapped them in with those Zerglings. And MMA knows what's up. He's like, dang it. I'm going to have to back up behind this tiny supply depot wall, and hopefully that saves me from the extremely slow waddling Baneling coming across the map. Now the good news for him is by the time the Baneling actually manages to waddle over here, exaggerating a little bit, that siege mode will be done. It's about halfway right now. It's a 100-second upgrade if I do remember correctly. No, 80, so it's even faster than I thought. And these Banelings are waddling their way toward these supply depots, and almost all of them die, which means these supply depots are going to stay up for a little bit longer than they probably should have. These siege tanks swiftly being surrounded by these Zerglings. One of them is going to die. It looks like the second one is going to live, and not dealing as much damage as he would have hoped. He actually lost quite a few Zerglings out in front with those supply depots living. And now there's a mule just kind of chilling out in the middle of nowhere, though. That can't be intended. There he goes. He's gone back to the mineral line. And we have a retransfer of SCVs back out to the natural. And the siege tanks are setting up. There's one on the high ground right now. And the other one is going up to the high ground. It will be able to shell down on anything coming up the ramp. I guess most of the ramp. And then this other one covers all of the ramp and is in a good position. You actually have to run up and then surround it here. You won't actually be able to get fully surrounded by Zerglings, which actually helps a lot. And in the meantime, IMLosira is knocking down the destructible rocks in the south. Now I'm going to sit here for a second and try and figure out why he's doing that. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out why he's doing that. He might be like shuttling. No, it doesn't look like he's going to elevator Zerglings into the base. That was my guess, but then he could like rally right here and then the Overlords can just jump back and forth really fast, but that doesn't appear to be the case. I guess he's just positioning Banelings down here in case there is some type of a... I mean, I've seen it before. In the Bingsky versus Snake Snipe game that I cast a little while ago, if you check on my lokazi.blogspot.com, you actually see Grandmaster Bingsky off-racing a Zerg versus Snake Snipe, who's a Master League Terran player. Is very, very good. And he actually walks up and elevators Marines and siege tanks right here, leaving a few siege tanks on the low ground. It does get shut down by Bingsky, but basic premise is still the same, and I think that might be why IMLosira knocked down these rocks to try and defend from that. In the meantime, he's picked up his third, and he is macro hatching at his third. You usually see the macro hatch at the second or third, depending on how the map is laid out. And in the meantime, MMA is dropping up here above the third, so he's going to try and shut down this base as much as possible. And if he engages the Zerglings on the ramp, he can actually maybe even win the fight. But it looks like the Zerglings are alerted to his presence by magic. I think this actually was this Marine randomly being over here near the Overlord that tipped him off, so he decided to move up. And now there are Marines going down on the low ground here. Kind of interesting. And I guess this is what he was looking for. Baneling's getting picked off there. Now he's going to be able to elevator up, and then if he gets in trouble, back down very easily. But it looks like he's just going to pick that up and head on home, which he's also doing with this northern medevac drop. Lots of creep tumors out in the middle. Look at all those creep tumors. 12 creep tumors. That's so many creep tumors. Macro hatch about to finish for IMLosira. This creep not quite connecting these bases. Most of the way though. Not too much. And we have a Marine siege tank push coming out here from MMA. Now MMA is going to need to spread these out pretty well. There are 16 Banelings on the field. Those Marines are going to have to be microed impeccably. But there are 44 Marines out, which is quite a lot. It looks like he's just going to go forward with a small force of Marines and try and clear out as many of those creep tumors as possible. But there are like we said 12 creep tumors. So it's going to take some time for that creep to recede. And it's only going to recede to about here. This will be the new creep line like this. Yeah. So his new creep line will be about here. So he's going to take like 4 inches off the screen. And MMA is going to back up. His shield upgrade finished. He has +1. Meantime, +1 is already finished for Losira on ground weapons. And it is a Ling Roach army out on the field for him. With a few banelings in reserve behind them. Now this does kind of disable the ability to build Mutalisks for lots of harassment when you're going for all of these roaches. So it's an interesting style that's becoming more and more popular. As opposed to going bling ling muta, you actually go bling bling roach and just forego the harassment, but are much more threatening when the actual battles are going on. So it can be a really legitimate strategy. Looks like some siege tanks are being placed up on the high ground here by MMA, just spreading out his army as much as possible. And the first siege shell is landing, heralding this engagement between Losira and MMA, and it looks like Losira don't want none. There are a lot of siege tanks down here. They're just picking off so many of the Zerg's units as they roll around. And Losira trying from a different angle. I do not think the banelings, yeah, that entire army just gets eaten by the siege tanks. And oh wow, look at all those SCVs explode. More about to go off. Boom! That's a lot of SCV deaths. So pretty big win there economically for Losira. He took out about, I don't know, probably 30 SCVs. Some ridiculous amount like that. But he did lose his entire army. So his new standing army is 26, 24 Zerglings, 5 Banelings, and a few Mutalisks. Versus the same number of tanks, none of them actually died. Some of them got to half HP. And 64 Marines, which is actually more than the previous encounter started with. So, really big economic win, but I don't think that's going to be enough. These siege tanks sieged a little late, and it looks like they are going to get cleaned up. So now it comes to Marine spreading to avoid Banelings. But there are so many Marines, I don't even think he'll need to spread. He just needs to actually pick them off before they get there. And a drop going down in the natural of MMA, or in the natural of Losira by MMA, trying to distract as many of those units as possible. No drop in the third, actually. GG called by Losira. And Game 2 goes to MMA. So it is now tied up 1-1 in the MLG Columbus upper bracket round 2, the winner of which goes into the grand finals, the loser of which gets knocked down and needs to fight his way back up or be eliminated forever from the MLG Columbus tournament, at least this year in 2011. Thank you for tuning in. This is Lokazi casting for you. I will be casting the rest of the games coming up here in just a few minutes, so stay tuned. Check the videos out. They should all be linked together in playlists and stuff like that if you're checking it out on YouTube. If you're checking it, and go ahead and follow or subscribe on YouTube and like any of the videos you like. Or just all of them. You can just like all of them. If you like me, or even if you don't like me, but you just want to press the like button because it makes me feel good, also perfectly acceptable. So go ahead and do that. And then if you want, you can check them out on justintv.com/Lokazi, where I am casting live at right now. They will be in VODs down below, as well as you should follow me on this so I have more people following me. And thank you for tuning in. I'll catch you guys in a few minutes. Once again, this was Lokazi. Thanks for tuning in.